If all your relationships have the same problem, you are the problem.
Yeah.
How did this one go
It's
down?
funny. Yeah, you know what's funny? So this was originally I wrote a short article. Um, I wrote a short article, I think in like 2012 or 13, and it was called like all the reasons you're still single, and and I published it on Valentine's Day, and I just got like a sick pleasure out of that. And it basically said it was like, look, all these problems you think all your partners have or all the people you date have, like, guess what? The only thing they have in common is you.
Common denominator.
But I repost that probably about once a year in different places and
On
different
Valentine's
forums.
Day,
And
just let's schedule it every February 14th from now until the end of time.
I had a pretty sick thing going on my blog with Valentine's Day for a while. Like I did that one year, and then I think the next year I did like a how to break up with somebody like guide on Valentine's Day. I did like a bunch of like kind of fucked up dark humor type things. But yeah, I repost that one quite frequently because I mean, I always get a lot of people get mad at me when I post it. A lot of, because everybody's got that. Well, you don't understand. My ex is different, and
What, all
you
four
have
of
to
them
hear
have
my
the
s-
exact same problem that you happen to be the single thread, but they don't know each other. They're not even in the same city, and yet they all ended in
Yeah,
the same way, but it's all their fault, not yours.
yeah. It,
Okay.
it's it's always I'm always I get lots and lots of emails over the years, and I'm always amused that the people who get really upset at my relationship advice, they're they always send emails like this long, and it's always like, well, you don't understand, my situation is different, and then they go on to tell this like 5 page sob story about you know God knows what. And in every case, it's exactly the same. It's like, no, you're still the problem. You're just you know. But yeah, it's also, I keep posting it because it is such a powerful realization. It was very powerful in my own life, and I've just heard from hundreds of people at this point who've told me the same thing, that it was very powerful for them to hear as well. So I'm willing to deal with a little bit of hate, um, to get the good word out.
Doing God's work. Right. Lots of
Exactly.
people who are still single but want a relationship simply have absurd expectations.
Yes. I think one of the problems with uh I mean, look, like, I think one of the side effects of the internet, like kind of the effects that the internet has had on culture, is that it's exposed us to the most extraordinary aspects of society. So it's, if you're interested in mountain climbing, you can like go on YouTube and find amazing videos of people summiting Everest, like left, right, and center. And so I feel like this is, without us realizing it, has skewed our expectations for our own lives. It's kind of like moved the goal back about 50 yards, from where it would normally be, without us necessarily even recognizing it. And I think this applies to dating as well. It's like you because you have access to so many people through dating apps or online or whatever, you start developing these kind of unrealistic standards of what a partner should be. People develop these insane checklists of, well, they need to be like, they need to be a concert pianist, and they need to have a PhD, and they need to be a part-time model, and they need to speak six languages. And it's like, good luck, man. Like, good luck. So I think sometimes we need to be brought down to earth.
I wonder whether, as well, part of it is just that we constantly are looking for something that's going to fill the hole. And perhaps by setting our standards so absurdly high, we never actually have to enter the world of a relationship with people. Also, here's another thing, man. How much do you think this is because we live in a meritocracy? Like, if you teach people that they can become anything that they want to be, your success is completely yours to bear, Why shouldn't everyone want to try and date Angelina Jolie? Well, I can become anything I want to be. I can date anyone I want to want.
Yeah, I think it's there's kind of a missing counter narrative to meritocracy, or not counter, but like a kind of a parallel narrative that needs to exist, where it's like at some point you need to like pick your spot to be satisfied.
What's the hill that
Like
you're going to
you
get married on? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like it's and this comes back to what we were talking about earlier about like this kind of unwillingness to sacrifice and commit for others. Like it's the thing that makes a relationship strong is the ability to be like, okay, I see what's wrong with you, but I'm going to love you anyways. Like that, like getting to that point is what makes the relationship work. But I just think like fundamentally the way the incentives and culture is set up right now, it's like it's harder than ever for people to get to that point.
Yeah. You classed yourself as an ardent zealot of marriage. Have you got any advice for young guys who want to kind of transition from fuckboy to fatherhood?
From fuckboy to fatherhood. It'd be a good book title.
It would be. Yeah.
Well, I do want to say I'm not a zealot for marriage, but like I think it's underrated these days, and I think there's not enough people arguing for it, especially in my generation. I would say that, to make that transition, it's kind of the best piece of advice I've come across is asking people, because when you're dating a lot of people, part of the excitement is there's so much a diversity of dating experience. Like you date people with different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different nationalities, different professions, all this stuff. Like it's a very exciting time to kind of like sample the buffet of what's out there. But at a certain point, like when you want to get serious, the thing I always ask people is I say like, okay, what are your 3 non-negotiables? Like, what are the 3 things that like you just cannot be with a person if they don't have them? And I've noticed that people who really struggle to name those 3 things, like they're kind of lost on this hamster wheel of dating the next person who pops up on Tinder. But like you really need to figure out like what are your non-negotiables? What are the things that you really can't live without in a partner? And then figure out if those are good non-negotiables. There are bad things you can kind of put in those 3 spots, but generally it's going to be stuff like, honesty or trustworthiness. For me, intelligence is huge. Like I need to be able to have like a good conversation. And for me too, it's ambition. I just find I'm very, very attracted to ambitious women. I always get frustrated, whenever I dated women who weren't super ambitious, I'd get very frustrated. So it's like part of it's just learning through the act of dating. But then once you have them, you look for those non-negotiables, and then you just don't worry about the other things. Because I think part of the trap of the dating environment these days is like, it's like, well, she's really great at these 4 or 5 things, but she's got pointy elbows and I prefer redheads, and she's from California and I don't want to travel to meet her family. Like it's shit like that people like, move on from potentially really good relationships. And so it's like, get your 3 non-negotiables and then just fucking forget everything else. Like just look for those 3 things.
What do you think people should stop believing about relationships? Are there any sort of common myths that you think most people hold?
I think people mistake compromise for settling. There's a strong, I've noticed that a lot of people, especially younger people, have this strong like ethos of like, I'm never going to settle. Like, I'm not going to settle for somebody who like doesn't make me happy or whatever. And that's fine. Like, you shouldn't settle for a person who, has like somebody you're not attracted to, for instance. But at the same time, it's like any functional relationship requires compromise, and compromise requires you foregoing some of your own happiness to create, more general happiness among both of you in the long run. And I think a lot of people just mix up those two things. I've talked to a lot of people who have ended relationships for, like, in my mind, are just like insanely dumb reasons. It's like, oh, well, she wanted to move, her company wanted to move her to another city, and I don't want to deal with that. And it's like, well, dude, you were like, a month ago, you were telling me how in love you were. Like, he's like, yeah, but I don't want to settle for somebody who, like, it's just like, they're not even, it's like, yeah, she wants me to travel there every 2 months or something, and it's like, I don't have time for that. It's like, okay, this is why you're single. You're literally not prioritizing. You wonder why you're single decade after decade. It's because you don't fucking prioritize your relationships. It's really simple.
Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. It makes me very happy indeed. Peace.